Hi, my name is Rebecca, and I'm 29 years old. Today, I want to share something deeply personal, something I never thought would be my reality. I was in labor, sitting in a car, in pain, scared, and alone, because my husband decided to leave, not because of an emergency, not because of work, but because he wanted to go on a trip with his parents. He left me a week before my due date while I was having contractions. In that moment, everything changed. This is a story about betrayal, heartbreak, and the hardest kind of loneliness. But it's also about survival, strength, and a baby who came into this world on my terms, Evan, when I had no one beside me. So if you've ever felt abandoned, doubted, or pushed aside when you needed someone the most, this story is for you. Chapter 1. The waiting place. I always thought the moment I went into labor would be something beautiful. Scary, yes, but full of love. Full of support. A messy, raw, powerful moment where my husband would hold my hand, whisper encouraging words, and maybe cry a little when our baby finally arrived. That's what I had imagined. That's what every movie, every book, every well-meaning parent friend had led me to believe. That this would be a shared memory, the start of our family, the most intimate of chapters. But when the moment came, I was alone. It was a Tuesday, one of those late summer days that carried more heat than it should have. The air conditioning in our little silver sedan was only working when the car was moving, which meant the inside quickly grew stifling once parked. I'd been having contractions on and off all morning, tight, sharp cramps that made me wince and grip the door handle. But I didn't want to panic. I didn't want to call it labor too early. We had been on our way back from a quick errand, just the two of us. The baby wasn't due for another week, and I had convinced myself that the growing discomfort was just Braxton Hicks. Practice contractions, nothing more. I'd read all about them, been reading everything. This was my first baby, and I wanted to be prepared for every step of the journey. But then my husband Daniel got a phone call from his mother. I remember every word of it, every pause, the way his eyes shifted while he listened. I thought maybe someone was sick or something had happened back home. "It's fine," he said after he hung up. "They just want to do a quick trip to the coast. Mom's been planning it for weeks." I blinked. "Wait, what? Now?" He nodded. "Yeah, they're already on their way. They'll swing by and pick me up. You'll be okay, right?" I laughed, thinking it was a joke. My face was flushed, and my whole body ached. "Daniel, I think I'm in labor." He glanced at me. "You said it was Braxton Hicks." It was, I thought. "But they're getting worse." He looked uncomfortable, like I was ruining his plans. "I'll only be gone 2 nights. It's a family thing. Besides, we still have time." The silence in the car was so loud I could hear my own heartbeat. "Please," I said, my voice small. "Don't go." He hesitated. Just for a second. Then he leaned over, kissed my forehead, and said, "You'll be fine. Just call me if anything happens." Then he stepped out of the car, took his overnight bag from the trunk, and walked away. And I sat there, alone. The pain was coming faster now. I stared at the dashboard clock, watching the minutes crawl by, unsure of what to do. My phone sat in the queue folder. I thought about calling my mother, but she lived across the country. I thought about calling an ambulance, but what would I say? "Hi, I'm in a car, in a parking lot, and my husband just left me here." More time passed. Each contraction was a crashing wave. I breathed through them, counting like the birthing class taught us. In 2, 3, out, 2, 3. But the panic inside me didn't slow. My body was moving forward into something terrifying and real, and I was alone. I looked out the window. A young couple walked by holding iced coffees, laughing. the world. Felt oblivious to my unraveling, to the fact that I was coming undone. I thought about Daniel, where he was now. Whether he would call. Whether he would care. The baby kicked hard against my ribs, reminding me of its presence, its urgency. I wasn't just abandoned. We were abandoned. Me and this tiny life inside me. My hands were shaking. I opened the glove box and found a half-used water bottle and a granola bar. I ate slowly, forcing myself to stay present, to stay calm. I could do this. I had to do this. But the truth was, had no idea what was coming. And the pain kept building. A tidal force that would not be stopped. Chapter 2. The breaking point. The next contraction brought me to my knees. I had gotten out of the car and stood. Beside it, one hand braced on the roof, the other gripping my belly. The sharp twist in my abdomen made me cry out, and for a terrifying second, I couldn't breathe. Everything around me blurred the distant hum of traffic, the occasional breeze, the sound of my own heart pounding in my ears while I gasped through. The pain blinking back tears. I couldn't do this in a parking lot, not alone. I forced myself to take stock of what I had. My phone, a bottle of water. My hospital bag was at home. Daniel had taken the keys with him, which meant the car was locked. I couldn't even sit inside anymore. I opened my phone and scrolled through my contacts, but every name blurred together. Who could I call? I was too embarrassed, too afraid. Everyone thought Daniel was a perfect husband. I'd let them think that. I'd defended him when he made selfish choices before, convinced myself they were flukes. But now he had left me here. I found a rideshare app, but my fingers were shaking too much to type. Another wave hit, this one stronger than the last. I leaned forward, gasping, crouching in the shade of a nearby tree. That's when a voice startled. Me. Are you okay? A woman's voice. Young, concerned. I looked up and saw Hermabee in her 20s, a college student, yoga pants and messy bun, holding a smoothie and a shopping bag. I think I'm in labor, I whispered. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. Okay. Do you need help? Do you want me to call someone? An ambulance. Please, I said. I can't reach anyone. She sprang into action. Within moments, she was on the phone with emergency services, relaying everything to the dispatcher. I could hear bits and pieces. Yes, she's full term. Alone, ... Contractions are close together. Parking lot outside Green's Market. Time blurred. The next thing I knew, I was in the back of an ambulance, gripping the rails as the contractions came hard and fast. One of the paramedics kept asking questions, but I could barely answer. My only focus was on breathing. And holding on, they wheeled me into the hospital, and the fluorescent lights above me flickered as we rushed down the hall. Nurses barked instructions. Someone checked my dilation. 9 centimeters, someone said. Voices got louder. Urgent. This was happening. Is someone with you? A nurse asked gently. No, I said. My husband, ... He's not here. A pause. A look of confusion, but no judgment. Just motion. Support. Warm hands. Holding mine, I was not prepared for how primal it would feel, like my body had become a roaring wave. The pressure, the pain, it's the absolute loss of control. And then ... screaming, pushing, and finally crying. Not mine. A baby's. The room softened. The light seemed less harsh. The world tilted gently back into focus. They placed the baby on my chest, tiny, red, squirming, beautiful. It's a girl, the nurse said with a smile. I stared down at her. My daughter, alone, but not broken. Not anymore. I kissed her forehead. My tears finally fell. Then, as if perfectly timed to ruin the moment, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. How's everything going? I laughed, out loud. It was bitter, sharp. and then turned into a sob. But I wasn't going to respond. Not yet. Chapter 3. The reckoning. I waited 3 days before calling him. Not because I was being petty. Not because I wanted to punish him. Because I needed those days to recover, to cry, to bond with the little girl I brought into this world alone. And to figure out who I was now, the woman who gave birth in a hospital room full of strangers, with a nurse squeezing her hand, and her husband on vacation. When I finally dialed his number, it rang twice before he answered. "Hey babe," he said, casually, like nothing had happened. "I was wondering when you'd call. How's the baby?" I was silent for a second. "She's perfect," I said, "and she deserves better than this." There was a pause. A beat of confusion. Better than what? "I told you I'd be back." "Daniel," I said quietly but firmly, "you left me. In labor, in a car. You didn't even ask if I needed help. You didn't care enough to stay," he stammered. "I thought you were exaggerating. You always get anxious about things." "Anxious? I gave birth without you. I could have died. She could have died, and you were on a beach." There was another long pause. "Look, I get it. It was bad timing, but it was just one time too many." I hung up, and this time, I didn't cry. Instead, I sat back in the hospital chair and looked at my daughter. Her little fists waving, her mouth pursed like she had something to say. I whispered to her, "We don't need anyone who walks away when things get hard." A week later, I filed for separation. I moved in with my aunt for a while, found a support group of moms who had done it alone, got stronger, got clearer. Daniel tried to come back months later, with flowers, with apologies, with stories about how hard it had been for him. But I had already built something better, a life where my daughter would never wonder if she was worth staying for. I chose peace, I chose us, and I have never looked back.